Om Sairam, Sai Satcharitra Chapter 1. Salutations, the story of grinding wheat and its philosophical significance. According to an ancient and revered custom, Hemad Pant begins the work, the Sai Satcharitra, with various salutations. First, he bows and prays to God Ganesha to remove all obstacles and make the work a success and says that Sri Sai is the God Ganesha. To the goddess Saraswati to inspire him to write the work and says that Sri Sai is one with the goddess and that he is himself singing his own life. To the gods Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the creating, preserving, and destroying deities respectively, and says that Sainath is one with them. And Sai, as the great teacher, will carry us across the river of worldly existence. To his tutelary deity, Narayan Adinath, who manifested himself in Konkan, the land reclaimed by Lord Rama from the sea, and to the Adipurusha of the family. Then to Bharadwaja Muni, into whose clan he was born, and also the various saints Yagyavalakya, Brigu, Parashara, Narad, Vedavyasa, Sanak, Sanadan, Sanat Kumar, Shuka, Shaunak, Vishwamitra, Vashishta, Valmiki, Vamadeva, Jaimini, Vaishampayan, Navayogindra, and also to modern saints such as Nivritti, Gnanadev, Sopan, Muktabhai, Janardhan, Ekanath, Namdev, Tukaram, Kanaha, and Narahari. To his grandfather Sadashiv, father Raghunath, his mother who passed away in his infancy, to the paternal aunt who raised him, and to his loving elder brother. Then to the readers and praise to them to give their whole and undivided attention to his work. And lastly to his Guru Sri Sainath, an incarnation of Sri Dattatreya, who is his sole refugee and who will make him realize that Brahman is the reality and the word an illusion. After describing briefly the various modes of devotion according to Parashara, Vyasa, and Shandilya, the author goes on to relate the following story. It was one day morning, sometime after 1910, when I went to the masjid in Shirdi to receive Sai Baba's darshan, I was wonderstruck to see the following phenomenon. After washing his mouth and face, Sai Baba began to make preparation to grind wheat. He spread a sack on the floor and thereon set a hand mill. He took some quantity of wheat in winnowing fan and then drawing up the sleeves of his kafni and taking hold of the peg of the hand mill, started grinding the wheat by putting a few handsful of wheat in the upper opening of the mill and rotating it. I thought to myself, what business had Baba with the grinding of wheat when he possessed nothing, stored nothing, and lived on alms? Some people who had come there thought likewise, but none had the courage to ask Baba what he was doing. Immediately, this news of Baba's grinding wheat spread into the village, and men and women flocked there to see Baba's act. Four bold women from the crowd forced their way up, gently pushed Baba aside, and forcibly took the handle into their hands, and then singing Baba's Leelas, started grinding. At first, Baba was enraged, but on seeing the women's love and devotion, he was very pleased and began to smile. While they were grinding, they began to think that since Baba had no house, property, or children, and since he lived on alms, he did not require any wheat flour to make bread. What would he do with the large quantity of flour? Perhaps, as Baba was very kind, he would distribute the flour among us. Thinking in this way while singing, they finished the grinding, and after putting the hand mill aside, they divided the flour into four portions and were about to take the flour away. Baba, who had been calm and quiet till then, got wild and started yelling at them, Ladies, have you gone mad? Whose father's property are you looting? Have I borrowed any wheat from you so that you can safely take the floor? Now, please do this. Take the floor and throw it on the village border limits. On hearing this, the women felt abashed and, whispering among themselves, went to the outskirts of the village and spread the floor as directed by Baba. I asked the people of Shirdi, what was this that Baba did? They replied that as the cholera epidemic was spreading in the village, this was Baba's remedy. It was not wheat that was ground, but cholera itself was ground to pieces and pushed out of the village. From the time onward, the cholera epidemic subsided and the people of Shirdi were happy. I was very pleased to know all this, but my curiosity was also aroused. I began to ask myself, what earthly connection was there between wheat flour and cholera? What was the casual relationship between the two? And how was one to reconcile them? The incident seemed to be inexplicable. I felt I should write something about this and sing to my heart's content Baba's sweet Leelas. Thinking about this Leela filled my heart with joy, and I was thus inspired to write about Baba's life, the Satcharithra. And as we know, with Baba's grace and blessing, this work was successfully accomplished. The philosophical significance of grinding. Apart from the meaning which the people of Shirdi gave the incident of grinding wheat, there is, we believe, a philosophical significance too. Sai Baba lived in Shirdi for 60 years, and during this long period, he did the business of grinding almost every day. Not the wheat alone, but the sins, the mental and the physical afflictions, and the misery of his innumerable devotees. The two stones of his mill consisted of karma and bhakti, the former being the lower and the latter the upper. The handle with Baba worked the mill with was jnana. It was the firm conviction that knowledge or self realization is not possible unless there is a prior act of the grinding of all up impulses, desires, sins, and the four gunas sattva, raja, tama, and ahankara, which are so subtle and therefore so difficult to get rid of. This reminds me of similar story about Kabir, who upon seeing a woman grinding corn, said to his guru Nipati Ranjana, I am weeping because I feel the agony of being crushed in this wheel of worldly existence like the corn and the handmill. Nipati Ranjana replied, Do not be afraid. Hold fast to the handle of knowledge of this mill as I do, and do not wander far from the same, but instead turn inward to the center, and you are sure to be saved. Om Sairam. Om Sairam. Sai Satcharitra Chapter 2. Topics. Objective of writing the work. Incapacity and boldness in the undertaking. The heated discussion. Conferring the significant and prophetic title of Hemad Panth and the necessity of a guru. Objective of writing the work. In the first chapter, I described Sai Baba's miracle of checking and destroying the epidemic of cholera by grinding wheat and throwing the flour on the outskirts of the village. I also heard about some more miracles of Sai Baba, to my great delight. And this delight inspired me to write this poetic work. I also thought the description of these grand miracles would be interesting and instructive to Baba's devotees and would destroy their sins. So I began to write about the sacred life and teachings of Sai Baba. The life of the saint is neither logical nor dialectical, which means relating to the logical discussion of ideas and opinions. It shows us the true and great path. Incapacity and boldness in undertaking the work. Hemad Pant initially believed that he was not fit to undertake this work. He said, I do not know the life of my intimate friend, and nor do I even know my own mind. Then how can I write the life of a saint or describe the nature of incarnation, which even the Vedas were unable to do? One must be a saint himself before he could know other saints. Then how can I describe their glory? To write about the life of a saint is the most difficult of undertakings. One may as well measure the depth of the water of the seven seas or enclose the sky with cloth. I knew that this was the most venturous of undertakings and that it might expose me to ridicule. I therefore invoked Sai Baba's grace. The most famous poet saint of Maharashtra, Sri Gyaneshwar Maharaj, has stated that Lord loves those who write about the lives of saints. The saints also have a peculiar method of getting the service, which the devotees long for successfully accomplished. The saints inspire the work, and the devotee becomes merely an indirect cause or instrument to achieve this end. For instance, in 1700 Shaka year, the poet Mahipati aspired to write about the lives of saints. Saints inspired him and got the work done. Similarly, in 1800, Das Ganu service was accepted. The latter wrote four books: Bhakta Vijaya, Santa Vijaya, Bhakta Lilamrit, and Santa Katamrit. In chapter 31, 32, and 33 of the Bhakta Lilamrit, and in chapter 57 of the Santa Katamrit, the sweet life and teachings of Sai Baba are very well depicted. These have separately been published in the Sai Leela magazine. The readers are requested to read these chapters. Sai Baba's wonderful Leelas are also described in a small book named Shri Sainath Bhajana Mala by Mrs. Savitri Bai Raghunath Tendulkar of Bandra. Das Ganu Maharaj has also composed various sweet poems on Sai Baba. A devotee named Amidas Bhavani Mehta has also published some stories about Baba in Gujarati. A few editions of Sainath Prabha, a magazine produced by the Dakshina Bhiksha Sansthan of Shirdi, has also been published. Then one might ask the question, since so many works regarding Sai Baba exist, why should the Sai Charitra be written and what is its necessity? The answer is plain and simple. The life of Sai Baba is as wide and deep as the infinite ocean. Everyone can dive deep into it and take out precious gems of knowledge and devotion and distribute them to the aspiring public. The stories, parables, and teachings of Sai Baba are indeed wonderful. They will give peace and happiness to people who are afflicted with sorrows and heavily loaded with the misery of the worldly existence, and will also bestow knowledge and wisdom, both in the worldly and spiritual domains. If these teachings of Sai Baba, which are as interesting and inconstructive as Vedic lore, are listened to and meditated upon, the devotees will get what they long for: union with Brahman, mastery in eightfold yogas, bliss of meditation, etc. So I thought that I should compile the stories, and thus that would be my best service. This collection would be very delight to those simple souls whose eyes were not blessed with Sai Baba's darshana. So I set about collecting Sai Baba's teachings and expressions. The outcome of his boundless and natural self realization, it was Sai Baba who inspired me in this matter. In fact, I surrendered my ego at his feet, thought that my path was clear and that he would make me quite happy here and in the next world. I could not myself ask Sai Baba to give me permission for this work, so I requested Mr. Madhavrao Deshpande, Baba's most intimate devotee, to speak to him for me. He pleaded for my cause and said to Baba, "This Anna Sahib wishes to write your biography. So don't say that you are poor, begging for fakir, and that there is no need to write it. Instead, if you agree and help him, your feet grace will accomplish the work. Without your consent and blessing, nothing can be done successfully." When Sai Baba heard this request, he was moved and blessed me by giving me his udi, the sacred ashes, and placing his boon bestowing hand on my head said, "Let him make a collection of my stories and experiences and keep notes and memos. I will help him. He is only an outward instrument. I shall myself write my autobiography and satisfy the wishes of my devotees. He should get rid of his ego and surrender it at my feet. He who acts like this in life, him I help the most." And about my life stories, I serve him in his house in all possible ways when his ego is completely annihilated and no traces of it remains. I myself shall enter into him and shall write about my own life. Hearing my stories and teachings will create faith in devotees' hearts, and they will easily get self realization and bliss. Let there be no insistence on establishing one's own view, no attempt to refute others' opinions, and no discussions of pros and cons of any subject. The word discussion reminded me of my promised to explain the story behind my receiving the title of Hemad Pant. And now I shall relate the story. I was very friendly with Kaka Sahib Dikshit and Nana Sahib Chandorkar. They pressed me to go to Shirdi and receive Baba's darshan, and I promised them to do so. But something happened meanwhile which prevented me from going to Shirdi. The son of a friend fell ill. My friend tried all possible means, physical and spiritual, but the fever would not abate. At length, he got his guru to sit by the side of his son's bed, but this too was of no avail. Hearing this, I thought to myself, what is the utility of the guru if he could not save my friend's son? If the guru cannot do anything for us, why should I go to Shirdi at all? Thinking in this way, I postponed my Shirdi trip. But the inevitable must happen, and it happened in many cases as follows. Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar was going on tour to Bassein. From Thane, he came to Dadar and was waiting for a train. In the meanwhile, a Bandra local train arrived. He sat in it and came to Bandra, sent for me, and took me to task for putting off my Shirdi trip. Nana's argument in favor of my Shirdi trip was convincing and delightful, and so I decided to start for Shirdi the same night. I packed my luggage and started for Shirdi. I planned to go to Dadar and from there to catch the train for Manmat, and so I booked myself a ticket to Dadar and sat in the train. As the train was about to start, a Muslim man came hastily to my compartment and, seeing all my paraphernalia, which means miscellaneous articles, asked me where I was going. I told him my plan. He then suggested that I should go straight to Boribandar and not get down at Dadar, for the Manmad Mahil did not stop at Dadar at all. In this, little miracle had not happened. I would not have reached Shirdi the next day as desired, and many doubts would have assailed me. But it was not to be. As fortune favored me, I reached Shirdi the next day before 10 a.m. Kaka Dikshit was waiting for me there. This was in 1910, and there was only one place, Sathe's Wada, for lodging pilgrim devotees. After alighting from the tanga, that is, a small horse drawn carriage, I was anxious to receive darshana when the great devotee Tatya Sahib Nulkar returned from the masjid. He said that Sai Baba was at the corner of the Wada and that I should first receive Baba's preliminary darshan and then, after a bath, see him at leisure. Hearing this, I ran and prostrated before Baba, and my joy knew no bounds. I found more than that Nana Chandorkar had told me about. All my senses were satisfied and I forgot thirst and hunger. The moment I touched Sai Baba's feet, I began a new lease of life. I felt obliged to those who spurred me on and helped me to receive darshana, and I considered them my real relatives. I can never repay the debt. I can only remember them and prostrate before them. The peculiarity of receiving Sai Baba's darshan, as I discovered, is that by receiving his darshana, our thoughts are changed. The force of previous actions is abated, and gradually non attachment of dispassion towards worldly objects grow. It is by the merit of action in many past births that such darshana is attained. And if you see Sai Baba, the entire world becomes or assumes the form of Sai Baba. The heated discussion. The day I arrived in Shirdi, there was an argument between myself and Bala Saheb Bhatte regarding the necessity of a guru. I contended, why should we lose our freedom and submit to others? When we have to do our duty, why is a guru necessary? One must try his best and save himself. What can the guru do for a man who does nothing but sleeps indolently? And Mr. Bhatte took up the other side and said, whatever is bound to happen must happen. Even great men have failed. Man proposes one way, but God disposes the other way. Brush aside your cleverness. Pride or egoism won't help you. This discussion with all its pros and cons went on for an hour or so, and as usual, we did not arrive at any decision. We had to stop the discussion ultimately as we were both exhausted. The net result of this was that I had lost my peace of mind and discovered that unless there is strong body consciousness and egoism, there will be no arguments. In other words, there's egoism which breeds arguments. The significant and prophetic title. When we later went to the masjid, Baba asked Kaka Sahib Dikshit what was going on in the wadi. What was the discussion about? And staring at me, Baba added, what did this Himad Pant say? Hearing these words, I was rather surprised, since the masjid was at a considerable distance from Satya's Wada. Where the discussion happened, how could Baba know about the discussion? Unless he was omniscient and the inner ruler of us all. I began to wonder why Sai Baba would call me by the name Hemad Pant. This word is a shortened version of the name Hemadri Pant. Hemadri Pant was a well-known minister of the kings Mahadeva and Ramdev of Devgiri of the Yadav dynasty. He was very learned, good-natured and the author of works such as Chaturvarga, Chintamani and Raja Prashasti. He invented and started new methods of accounting and was the originator of the Mohi script. But I was the quite opposite. So I could not understand why the name or title was conferred upon me. But upon thinking seriously about it, I thought that the title was a dart to destroy my ego so that I would always remain meek and humble. It was also a compliment paid for me for my skill in the argument. When we look at things in retrospect, we know that Baba's calling Mr. Dhabolkar by the name Hemad Pant was significant and prophetic. As future years showed, he looked up after the management of the Sri Sai Sansthan very intelligently and maintained its accounts professionally. He was also the author of such a good work, the Sai Satcharitra, which deals with important spiritual subjects as Gnana Bhakti, dispassion, self-surrendered, and self-realization. About the necessity of a guru, Hemad Pant has left no note or memo about what Baba said regarding his subject. But Kaka Sahib Dikshit has published his notes regarding the matter. The day after Hemad Pant's first meeting with Sai Baba, Kaka Sahib went to Baba and asked whether he should live Shirdi. Baba said yes. Then someone asked, Baba, where should he go? Baba replied, high up. Then the man asked, how is the way that leads there? Baba said, there are many ways leading there. There is one way from here too. The way that begins here is difficult. There are tigers and wolves in the jungles on the way. Kaka Sahib then asked, but Baba, what if we take a guide with us? Baba answered, then there is no difficulty. The guide will take you straight to your destination, avoiding wolves, tigers, and ditches on the way. If there is no guide, there is the danger of you being lost in the jungle or falling into ditches. Mr. Dhabolkar was present in this occasion and he thought that this was the answer Baba gave to the question about whether a guru was necessary. Thus, he took the hint that no discussion of the question whether man is free or bound is of any use in spiritual matters. On the contrary, real Paramatma is possible only as a result of the teachings of Guru. This is illustrated by the examples of great avatars like Rama and Krishna who had to submit themselves to their gurus, Vashishta and Sandipani respectively, to attain self-realization. Therefore, the only virtues necessary for such progress are faith and patience. Om Sairam. End of chapter 2. Om Sairam. Sai Satcharitra Chapter 3. Topics: Sai Baba's sanction and promise, assignment of work to devotees, Baba's stories as a beacon light, his motherly love, Rohila's story, and his sweet and nectar-like words. Sai Baba's sanction and promise. As described in the previous chapter, Sai Baba gave us complete approval for the writing of the Sai Satcharitra and said, I fully agree with you regarding the writing of the Satcharitra. You do your duty, don't be afraid in the least. Keep your mind steady and have faith in my words. If my leelas are written, ignorance will vanish, and if they are attentively and devotedly listened to, the consciousness of worldly existence will abate and strong waves of love and devotion will rise. And if one dives deep into my leelas, he will get precious jewels of knowledge. Hearing this, the author was very pleased, and he at once became fearless and confident and thought that his work was bound to be a success. Then, turning to Shama, that is Madhavrao Deshpande, Sai Baba said, if a man remembers my name with love, I shall fulfill all his wishes and increase his devotion. And if he signs earnestly my life and my deeds, him I shall beset on all sides. Those devotees who are attached to me, heart and soul, will naturally feel happy when they hear the stories. Believe me, if anybody sings my Leelas, I will give him infinite joy and everlasting contentment. It is my special characteristic to free any person who surrenders completely to me, worships me faithfully, remembers me, and meditates on me constantly. How can they who worship me, who think of my stories and my life, and who thus always remember me, be conscious of worldly objects and sensations? I shall save my devotees from the jaws of death. If my stories are listened to, all diseases will be forgotten rid of. So hear my stories with respect and think about them, meditate on them, and assimilate them. This is the way to happiness and contentment. The pride and egoism of my devotees will vanish. The mind of the listeners will be set at ease, and if you have wholehearted and complete faith, you will be one with the supreme consciousness. The simple remembrance of this name, Sai, will do away with sins of speech and hearing. Different works assigned to devotees. The Lord entrusts different tasks to different devotees. Some are given the work of building temples and flights of steps on banks of rivers, while others are made to sing the glories of God. Some are sent on pilgrimages, and I was allotted the work of writing the Satcharithra. Being a jack of all trades and master of none, I was quite unqualified of this job. Then why should I undertake such a difficult task? Who can describe the true life of Sai Baba? Sai Baba's grace alone can enable one to accomplish this difficult work. So when I picked up my pen, Sai Baba took away my egoism and wrote those stories himself. The credit of relating these stories therefore goes to him and not to me. Thus Brahman by birth I lacked the two eyes, the spiritual vision of Shruti, that which is revealed, and Smriti, that which is ordinarily remembered, and therefore was not at all capable of writing the Satcharitra. But the grace of the Lord makes a dumb man talk and enables a lame man to climb a mountain. For he alone knows how to get things done according to his wishes. Neither the flute nor the harmonium know how the sounds are produced. It is the musician who controls the sounds they produce. Similarly, we are mere instruments of God's divine will. Baba stories as a beacon light. Lighthouses are constructed at various places near the sea to enable sailors to avoid rocks and dangers and to help them sail safely. Sai Baba's stories serve a similar purpose in the ocean of worldly existence. They surpass nectar in sweetness and make a worldly path smooth and easy to traverse. Blessed are the stories of the saints, for when they enter our hearts, egoism and the sense of duality vanish, and when they are stored in the heart, doubts fly away, pride vanishes, and wisdom will be stored in abundance. The description of Baba's fame and hearing the same with love will destroy the sins of the devotee. Therefore, this is simplest sadhana to attain salvation. The sadhana for the Krita age was tranquility of mind and body. For the Treta age, sacrifice; for Dwapara, worship; and for the Kali age, the present, it is singing the glory of Lord. The last sadhana is open to all people. The other sadhanas, yoga, yajna, that is sacrifice, dhyana, which is meditation, and dharana, concentration, are very difficult to practice. But singing and hearing about the glory of the Lord, Sai Baba, is very easy. We only have to turn our attention towards Him. Singing and listening to these stories will remove our attachment to the senses and their objects and will make devotees dispassionate and will ultimately lead them to self realization. With this end in view, Sai Baba made me write the stories, the Satcharitramrita. The devotees may now easily read and hear the stories of Sai Baba and while doing so, meditate on his form. Thereby they attain devotion to their Guru and God Sai Baba and also attain detachment and self-realization. In the preparation and writing of this work, it is Sai Baba's grace which accomplished everything, using me as a mere instrument. Sai Baba's motherly love. Everybody knows how much a cow loves her infant calf. Her udder is always full, and when the calf wants milk and approaches the udder, out comes the milk in an incessant flow. Similarly, a human mother knows the needs of her child and feeds it on time. When it comes to the dressing the child, the mother takes particular care to see that this is well done. The child knows nothing about this, but the mother's joy knows no bounds when she sees her child beautifully dressed. The love of a mother is peculiar, extraordinary, disinterested, and has no parallel. Sadgurus feel this motherly love towards their disciples, and Sai Baba has the same love towards me. Here is an instance of this. In 1916, I retired from government service. The pension that was settled in my case was not sufficient to maintain my family decently. On the Guru Purnima day of that year, I went to Shirdi with a few other devotees. There, Mr. Anna Chinchanikar, of his own accord, prayed to Baba for me as follows. People look kindly upon me. The pension he gets is quite insufficient, and his family is growing. Give him some other appointment. Remove his anxiety and make him happy. Baba replied. He will get some other job, but now he should serve me and be happy. His dishes will always be full and never empty. He should turn all his attention towards me and avoid the company of atheists, irreligious, and wicked people. He should be meek and humble towards everyone and worship me heart and soul. If he does this, he will get eternal happiness. Rohila's story. Rohila's story illustrates Sai Baba's all embracing love. A man named Rohila, tall, well built, and as strong as a bull, came to Shirdi wearing a long kafni and was enamored by Baba. All day he would recite in a loud and harsh tone. The residents of Shirdi who worked in their fields during the day were welcomed with the Rohila's harsh cries and shouts when they returned home. The sleep was severely disturbed. They suffered in silence for a few days. When they could stand it no longer, they approached Baba and requested him to speak to the Rohila and stop the nuisance. Baba did not attend to their complaint. On the contrary, Baba took the villagers to task and asked them to mind their own business. He said to them that Rohila had a very bad wife, a Zantipi, who tried to come in and trouble the Rohila, but hearing the Rohila's prayer, she did not dare to trouble him. In fact, the Rohila had no wife, and his wife Baba meant bad thoughts. As Baba liked prayers and cries to God better than anything else, he took the side of Rohila and asked the villagers to wait and suffer the nuisance, which would abate in due course. Baba's sweet and nectar like words. One day at noon, after the aarti, devotees were returning to their home. When Baba gave the following beautiful advice. Be wherever you like, do whatever you choose, but remember this well, that all you do is known to me. I am the inner ruler of everyone. I am seated in their hearts. I envelop all creatures in the movable and the immovable world. I am the controller, the master Vayapuller of the show of this universe. I am the mother, the origin of all beings, the harmony of three gunas, the propeller of all senses, the creator, preserver, and the destroyer. Nothing will harm him who turns his attention towards me, but Maya will lash or whip him who forgets me. All beings The visible, movable, and immovable world are my body or form. Hearing these beautiful and precious words, I at once decided in my mind to serve no man henceforth but my Guru. But Baba's reply to Anna Chinchanika's query, which was really my query, worried me greatly. As future events showed, Baba's words came true and I got a government job. But that was of short duration. Then I became free and solely devoted myself to the service of my Guru Sai Baba. Before concluding this chapter, I request the readers to overcome various hindrances, indolence, sleeping, wandering of mind, attachments to senses, and to turn their whole and undivided attention to the stories of Sai Baba. Let their love be natural. Let them know the secret of devotion. Let them not exhaust themselves through the other sadhanas, and let them stick to the simple remedy, listening to Sai Baba's stories. This will destroy their ignorance and will secure them salvation. So let Sai Baba be enthroned in everyone's heart. Om Sairam. End of chapter 3. Om Sairam. Sai Satcharitra Chapter 4. Topics: Mission of the Saints, Shirdi, a holy place of pilgrimage, Sai Baba's personality, Gaulibuva's dictum, the appearance of Vittal, Shir Sagar's story, Dasganu's bath in Prayag, the Immaculate Conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shirdi, the three Vadas. In the last chapter, I described the circumstances which led me to write the Sai Satcharitra. Let me now describe the first advent of Sai Baba in Shirdi with Baba's grace. Mission of the Saints. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, whenever there is a decay of dharma and an ascendancy of unrighteousness, I manifest myself to the protection of the virtuous, the destruction of the vicious, and for the establishment of righteousness. I thus manifest myself age after age. This is the mission of God and saints. Saints are his representatives and appear here appropriate times and help in their own way to fulfill the mission. For instance, when spiritual preceptors are humiliated, when nobody cares for religious instructions, when everybody thinks himself very learned, and when people begin to partake of forbidden food and intoxicating drinks, when under the cloak of religion people indulge in malpractices, when people belonging to different sects fight among themselves, the Orthodox forget their religious practices, when yogis neglect their meditation, when people begin to think that wealth, progeny, and wife are the sole concern and thus turn away from the true path of salvation, then saints appear and try to set matters right by their words and actions. They serve as beacon lights and show us the right path for us to follow. In this way, many saints, Nivritti, Gnanadev, Muktabai, Namdev, Gora, Gonai, Ekanath, Tukaram, Narahari, Narsibai, Sajan Kasai, Savata, Ramdas, and various others appeared at various times to show people the right path. And Sai Baba also arrived on earth with the same mission. Shirdi, a holy place of pilgrimage. The banks of the Godavari River in the Ahmednagar district are very fortunate, for they gave birth and refuge to many a saint, the most prominent among them being Dhaneshwar. Shirdi also falls in the Ahmednagar district. It is after crossing the Godavari region at Kopargaon that one reaches Shirdi. When you travel another 9 miles, you come to Nimgaon, from where Shirdi is visible. Shirdi is as famous as other holy places like Gangapur, Narsinwadi, and Audumbar on the banks of Krishna river. Just as the devotee Damaji flourished in and blessed Mangal Veda, as Samarth Ramdas blessed Sajjangad, and just as Sri Narasimha Saraswati elevated Saraswati Vadi, Sainath flourished at Shirdi and blessed it. Sai Baba's personality. It is on account of Sai Baba that Shirdi grew into importance. Let us see what sort of personage Sai Baba was. He had conquered the samsar, which is very difficult to cross. Peace or mental calm was his ornament, and he was the repository of wisdom. He was the home of Vaishnava devotees and was very liberal. He had no love for perishable things and was always engrossed in self realization, which was his sole concern. He felt no pleasure in the things of this world or of the world beyond. His heart was as clear as a clean mirror, and his speech always rained nectar. The rich or poor were the same to him. He did not know or care about honor or dishonor. He was the Lord of all beings. He spoke freely, interacted with everyone, saw the acting and dances of Nautch girls, and listened to ghazal songs, yet he did not swerve on an inch from Samadhi. The name of Allah was always on his lips, and while the world awoke, he slept. And while the world slept, he was vigilant. His inside was as calm as the deep sea. His ashram could not be determined, and nor could his actions be determined with certainty. And though he lived in one place, he knew all the transactions that took place in the world. His darbar, which is also called royal court, was imposing. He told hundreds of stories daily, and yet he did not break his vow of silence. He always leaned against the wall in the masjid and walked in the morning, noon, and evening towards the Lendi and Chowdi. He abided in the self at all times. Though an enlightened soul, he acted like a normal human being. He was meek, humble, and pleased everyone. Such was Sai Baba, and as the soil of Shirdi was trodden by Sai Baba's feet, it attained extraordinary importance. Just as Ganeshwar had elevated Alandi and Ekanath elevated Paitan, said Baba elevated Shirdi. Blessed are the grass and stones of Shirdi, for they could easily kiss the holy feet of Sai Baba and receive the dust from his feet on their heads. Shirdi became for us devotees another Pandharpur, Jagannath, Dwarka, Banaras, Rameshwar, Badrikedar, Nasik, Triambakeshwar, Ujjain, and Mahabaleshwar Gokarn. Contact with Sai Baba and Shirdi was like our Veda and Tantra, as it calmed a consciousness of the world and rendered self realization easy. The darshana of Sri Sai was our yoga sadhana, and speaking to him destroyed our sins. Shampooing his legs was a bath in the Triveni Prayag, and drinking the holy water from his feet destroyed our desires. To us, his commands were Vedas, and accepting his Udi, that is the sacred ashes, and prasad was purifying. He was our Sri Krishna and Sri Rama, who gave us solace, and he was our Parabrahma. He was beyond the pair of dvandvas, never dejected or elated. He was always engrossed in his self as existence, knowledge, and bliss. Shirdi was his center, but his field of action extended far and wide to Punjab, Calcutta, North India, Gujarat, Dhaka, and Konkan. Thus, Sai Baba's fame spread far and wide, and people from all parts of the world came to receive his darshana. Though mere darshan, people's mind, whether pure or impure, would become at one quiet. They got here the same sort of unparalleled joy that devotees get at Pandharpur upon seeing Vitthal Rakhumai. This is not an exaggeration. Consider what a devotee said in this regard. Gaulibuva's dictum.
An old devotee named Gauli Bua, who was about 95 years old at the time, was a devotee of Pandharpur Maharaj. He spent 8 months every year at Pandharpur and 4 months, that is from July to November, on the banks of Ganges. He had a mule to carry his luggage and a disciple as his companion. Every year he made his pilgrimage to Pandharpur and came to Shirdi to see Sai Baba, who he loved greatly. He used to stare at Baba and say, "This is Nath, Vittal incarnate, the merciful Lord of the poor and the helpless." He was a devotee of Vithoba and he had made many trips to Pandharpur and testified that Sai Baba was indeed Nath incarnate. Vittal himself appears. Sai Baba was very fond of remembering and singing God's name. He always said the words Allah Malik, that is, God is our sole master. And in his presence made others sing God's name continuously, day and night for 7 days. This is called Nama Sapata. Once he asked Kaka Sahib Dikshit to perform the Nama Sapata. Kaka Sahib replied that he would do it provided he was assured that Vittal would appear at the end of the seventh day. Baba, placing his hands on Kaka Sahib's chest, assured him that Vittal would certainly appear, but that the devotee must be earnest and devout. He then said, "The Dankapuri of Thakurnath, the Pandhari of Vittal, the Dwarka of Ranchod is there Shirdi. One need not go far to see Dwarka. Will Vittal come here from some other place? He is here. Only when the devotee is bursting with love and devotion will Vittal manifest himself here." After the Sapata was over, Vittal manifested himself in the following manner. Kaka Sahib Dikshit was meditating after his bath and saw Vittal in a vision. When he went at noon to receive Baba's darshan, Baba asked him, "Did Vittal Patil come? Did you see him? He is very trot fellow. Catch him firmly, otherwise he will escape." This happened in the morning, and at noon there was another Vittal Darshana. A hawker came here to sell pictures of Vithoba. This picture exactly matched the figure that appeared in Kaka Sahib's vision. On seeing this and remembering Baba's words, Kaka Sahib was quite surprised and delighted. He bought a picture of Vithoba and placed it in his shrine for worship. Bhagwant Rao Kshirasagar's story. Baba's fondness for Vittal worship is illustrated in Kshirasagar's story. Bhagwant Rao's father was a devotee of Vithoba and used to go on annual trips to Pandharpur. He also worshipped an image of Vithoba at home. After his death, the son stopped everything, the trips, the worship, and the Shraddha ceremony. When Bhagwant Rao came to Shirdi, Baba, who remembered his father at once, said, "His father was my friend, so I dragged him here. He never offered Naivedya, an offering of food, and so he starved Vittal and me. So I brought him here. I shall change him now and set him to worship." Das Ganu's bath in Prayag. Hindus believe that a bath in the holy waters of Prayag, where the Ganga and Yamuna meet, is very sacred, and thousands of pilgrims go there to have a sacred bath. Das Ganu once wanted to go to Prayag for a bath and came to Baba to get his permission to live. Baba replied, "It isn't necessary to go so far. A Prayag is here. Trust me." Then, when Das Ganu placed his head on Baba's feet, out flowed streams of Ganges and Yamuna water, a stream from each of Baba's feet. Seeing this miracle, Das Ganu was overwhelmed with feelings of love and adoration, and his eyes were full of tears. He felt inspired, and his speech burst forth into a song in praise of Baba's and his Leelas. The Immaculate Conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shirdi. Nobody knew the parents, date of birth, or place of birth of Sai Baba. Many inquiries were made and many questions were put to Baba and others regarding these matters, but no satisfactory answers have yet been obtained. We know nothing about these matters. Namdev and Kabir were not born like ordinary mortals. They were found as infants. Namdev was found on the banks of the Bhimrati river by Gunai and Kabir on the banks of the Bhagirathi river by Tamil. Saibaba's story was similar. He first manifested himself as a 16-year-old boy under the neem tree in Shirdi for the sake of his devotees. Even back then, he seemed to be full of knowledge of the Brahman. He had no desire for worldly objects even in his dreams. He had kicked out Maya and Mukti, was serving at his feet. An old woman in Shirdi described him in thus: a young lad, fair, smart, and very handsome. He was first seen under the neem tree seated in an asan. The people of the village were wonderstruck to see such a young boy practicing hard penance, with no regard for the heat or cold. By day he associated with none, and by night he wasn't afraid of anybody. People wondered where this young chap had turned up from. His form and features were so beautiful that a mere look endeared him to everyone. He did not go to anybody's door and always sat near the neem tree. Outwardly, he looked very young, but through his action, he was really a great soul. He was the embodiment of dispassion and was an enigma to everyone. One day, it so happened that God Khandoba possessed the body of a devotee, and people asked him, Deva, please tell us whose son this boy is and where he came from. God Khandoba asked them to bring a spade and dig in a particular place. When it was dug, bricks were found underneath a flat stone. When the stone was removed, a corridor led to a cellar where cow moat shaped structures, wooden boards, and necklaces were seen. God Khandoba said, this lad practiced penance here for 12 years. Then people began to question the lad about this. He put them off the scent by telling them that it was his guru's holy resting place and requested them to guard it well. The people then closed the corridor just as they had found it. As Ashwatha and Audamba trees are here sacred, Baba regarded his neem tree equally sacred and loved it the most. Mala Sapati and others Shirdi devotees regarded the site as the final resting place of Baba's Guru and prostrated before it. The three Vadas. The land with neem tree and the land that surrounded it was bought by Mr. Hari Vinayak Sate, and on the site a big building named Sate Vada was built. This Vada was initially the sole resting place for pilgrims. A raised platform was built around the neem tree and loads with steps were constructed. Under the steps there is a night facing south and devotees sit on the platform facing north. It is believed that if a devotee burns incense there on Thursday and Friday evenings, by God's grace they will always be happy. This Vada was old and dilapidated and needed repairs. The necessary repairs, additions, and alterations have now been made by the Sai Sansthan. Then, after a few years, another Vada, Dikshit's Vada, was constructed. Kaka Sahib Dikshit, a solicitor from Bombay and gone to England, he had injured his leg in an accident there. The injury could not be gotten rid of by any means. Nana Sahib Chandorkar advised him to try Sai Baba. So he saw Sai Baba in 1909 and requested him to cure the lameness of his mind and rather than that of his leg. He was so pleased with the darshan of Sai Baba that he decided to reside in Shirdi. So he built a vada for himself and other devotees. The foundation of this building was laid on the 10th of December 1910. On this day, two other important events took place. Mr. Dada Sahib Khaparde was given permission to return home and the nighttime aarti in the Chavdi commenced. The Vada was completely and was inhabited on the Ramanavami day in 1911 with due rites and formalities. Another vada was constructed by the famous millionaire from Nagpur, Mr. Booty. Lots of money was spent on this building, but the amount was well utilized as Sai Baba's body rests in the Vada, which is now called the Samadhi Mandir. The site of this mandir formerly had a garden, which was watered and looked after by Baba. The three Vadas thus sprang up, where there were none formerly. Of this, Sate's Vada was the most useful to everyone in the early days. The story of the garden attended to by Sai Baba with the help of Vaman Tatya and Sai Baba's temporary absence from Shirdi. His return to Shirdi with the marriage party of Chand Patil, the company of Devidas, Janaki Das and Gangagir, Baba's wrestling match with Modin Tamboli, his life in the masjid, his love for Mr. Dengale and other devotees, and a few other incidents will be described in the next chapter. Om Sairam, end of Sai Satcharitra Chapter 4. Om Sairam, Sai Satcharitra Chapter 5. Topics: Baba's return with Chand Patil's marriage party, how the fakir got the name Sai, contact with other saints, his dress and daily routine, the story of the Padukas, wrestling bout with Mohidin and change in his way of life, turning water into oil, and the fake Guru Jawhar Ali. Return with Chand Patil's marriage party. As I alluded to in the last chapter, I shall now describe how Sai Baba returned to Shirdi after his disappearance. In a village called Dhup, there lived a wealthy Muslim gentleman named Chand Patil. While he was on a trip to Aurangabad, he lost his mare. For 2 long months he diligently searched but could not find the lost mare. Very disappointed, he returned from Aurangabad with a saddle on his back. After travelling about 12 miles, he came to a mango tree, under the foot of which sat a rather strange looking fellow. He had a cap on his head, wore a long robe, and had a short stick under his armpit, and was preparing to smoke a pipe. On seeing Chand Patil pass by, he called out to him and asked him to have a smoke and to rest a little. The fakir then asked him about the saddle. Chand Patil replied that it belonged to his horse and that the horse was lost. The fakir asked him to look for the horse at a stream nearby. To Patil's astonishment, he found the mare by the stream. He then realized that this fakir was not an ordinary man but a great saint, and he returned to the fakir with the mare. The clay pipe was ready to be smoked, but two things were missing: a fire to light the pipe and water to wet the piece of cloth through which the smoke is drawn. The fakir took his prong and thrust it forcibly into the ground, and out came a live burning coal, which he put on the pipe. Then he dashed the stick on the ground, and water began to ooze from the spot on the ground. The cloth was moistened with the water was squeezed out, and it was wrapped around the pipe. Once everything was complete, the fakir smoked his pipe and then gave it to Chand Patil. On seeing all this, Chand Patil was wonderstruck. He requested the fakir to come to his house and accept the hospitality. The next day, the fakir went to Patil's house and stayed there for some time. Patil was a village officer in Dhup. His wife's brother's son was to be married, and the bride was from Shirdi. So Patil made preparation to leave for Shirdi to attend the wedding. The fakir also accompanied the marriage party. The wedding went off without any hitch, and the party returned to Dhup. However, the fakir stayed back in Shirdi and remained there forever. How the fakir got the name Sai. When the marriage party came to Shirdi, it alighted at the foot of a banyan tree in Bhagat Mahalsapati's field near Khandoba's temple. The carts were parked in the open courtyard of Khandoba's temple. The members of the party descended, and the fakir also exited one of the carts. Bhagat Malsapati saw the young fakir getting off a cart and said, Ya Sai, welcome Sai. Others also addressed him as Sai, and thenceforth he became known as Sai Baba. Contact with other saints. In Shirdi, Sai Baba began to live in a deserted, dilapidated mosque. A saint named Devidas had been living in Shirdi for many years before Baba came there. Baba liked his company and he lived with him in the Maruti temple in the Chowdi and sometimes lived alone. Then another saint named Janki Das arrived. Baba spent most of his time speaking with him, and Janki Das also visited Baba in the mosque. Another saint from Puntabe named Gangagir regularly visited Shirdi. When he first saw Sai Baba carrying pitchers of water to water the garden, he was amazed and said, Blessed is Shirdi that it got this precious jewel. This man is carrying water today, but he is not an ordinary fellow. A Shirdi is lucky it has secured this jewel. A famous saint named Anandnath of Yavala Math, a disciple of Akkalkot Maharaj, came to Shirdi with a few people. When he saw his Baba, he said, This is a precious diamond in reality. Though he looks like an ordinary man, he is not an ordinary stone, but a diamond in disguise. You will realize this in the near future. Saying this, he returned to Yavala. All this happened while Baba was a youngster. Baba's dress and daily routine. In his youth, Sai Baba grew hair on his head, never had his head shaved, and also dressed like an athlete. When he went to Rahata, that is 3 miles from Shirdi, he brought back with him small plants of marigold, jai, and jui, and planted and watered them. A devotee named Vamantatya supplied him daily with 2 earthen pitchers. With this, Baba himself used to water the plants. He drew water from the well and carried the pitchers on his shoulders. In the evening, the pitchers were kept at the foot of the neem tree. As soon as they were placed there, they cracked as they were not baked. The next day, Tatya supplied 2 fresh raw clay pitchers. This course went on for 3 years, and with Sai Baba's effort, there grew a flower garden. On the site stands the big mansion, the Samadhi Mandir, which is now frequented and used by so many devotees. The story of the Padukas under the neem tree. A devotee of Akkalkot Maharaj named Bhai Krishnaji Ali Bakhar worshipped the photo of Akkalkot Maharaj. He once thought of going to Akkalkot, which is in Sholapur district, receiving the darshana of the Padukas of the Maharaj and offering his sincere worship there. But before he could go there, he had a vision in his dreams. Akkalkot Maharaj appeared in the vision and said to him, Now Shirdi is my resting place. Go there and offer your worship. So Bhai changed his plans and came to Shirdi, worshipped Baba, stayed there for 6 months and was happy. As a symbol of this vision, he prepared the Padukas and installed them on the auspicious day of Shravana, Shaka 1834, that is 1912 AD. These Padukas were installed under the neem tree with due ceremonies and formalities, which were conducted by Dada Kelkar and Upasani Maharaj. Dikshit Brahman was appointed to perform the worship rituals, and the management was entrusted to a devotee named Sagun. The complete version of the story, Mr. PVDO, retired Mamalatdar, that is village official of Thana and a great devotee of Sai Baba, made inquiries about this matter with Sagun Meru Nayak and Govind Kamalkar Dikshit, and had published a full version of the story of the Padukas in the Sai Leela volume 11. It reads as follows. In 1912, Dr. Rama Rao Kothare of Bombay came to Shirdi to receive Baba's darshana. His assistant and his friend Bhai Krishnaji Ali Bakkar accompanied him. The assistant and the Bhai became very close to Sagun Meru Nayak and G.K. Dikshit. While discussing things, they all agreed that there ought to be a memorial of Sai Baba's first coming to Shirdi and sitting under the holy neem tree. They thought of installing Baba's padukas there and were going to make them of some rough stone. Then the assistant suggested that if this matter was mentioned to his boss, Dr. Rama Rao Kothare, he would prepare nicer padukas for this purpose. Everyone liked the proposal and Dr. Kothare was informed of it. He came to Shirdi and drew a plan of the padukas. He went to Upasani Maharaj in Khandoba's temple and showed him his plan. The latter made some improvements, drew lotus, flowers, a conch, a disc, a man, and suggested that the following verse regarding the neem tree's greatness and Baba's yogic powers be inscribed. The verse is as follows: Sadha nimbhari vrikshasya mulhadivasat sudhasravinam tiktampi apriyam tam tarum kalpavrikshadikam sadatyam namamishwaram sadgurum sainatham. Upasani's suggestions were accepted and carried out. The padukas were made in Bombay and sent to Shirdi with the assistant. Baba said that they should be installed on the Purnima, 15th day of Shravan. On that day at 11 a.m., G.K. Dikshit brought them on his hand and Kandoba's temple to the masjid in a procession. Baba touched the paduka, saying that these are the feet of the Lord, and asked the devotees to install them under the foot of the neem tree. G.K. Dikshit worshipped the padukas daily, and later this was done by Lakshman. For the first 5 years, Dr. Kothare sent 2 rupees per month to light lamps, and he also sent the railing around the padukas. Jakhadi performed the worship afterwards, and Sagun Meru Nayak offered the Naivedya and lit the evening lamps. Bhai Krishnaji was originally a devotee of Akkalkot Maharaj. He came to Shirdi at the time of the installation of the Padukas on his way to Akkalkot. He wanted to go to Akkalkot after receiving Baba's darshana. He asked for Baba's permission to leave for Akkalkot, and Baba said, "What is there in Akkalkot? Why do you go there? The incumbent Maharaj of that place is here." Hearing this, Bai did not go to Akkalkot. Instead, he came to Shirdi regularly after the installation of the Padukas. Mr. BVDO concluded that Hemat Pant did not know of these details. Had he known them, he would not have omitted them from his Satcharithra. Wrestling bout with Mohidin Tamboli and a change in his way of life. There was a wrestler in Shirdi named Mohidin Tamboli. Baba did not agree with Mohidin about some issues and they had a fight. In this, Baba was defeated. Thenceforth, Baba changed his dress and mode of living. He began to wear a kafni and a langot without his waistband and covered his head with a piece of cloth. He used a sack as a seat, another sack as his bed, and was content with wearing worn out rags. He always said that poverty is better than kingship and far better than lordship. The Lord is always a friend of the poor. Sai Baba did not interact much with people, he only gave answers when he was questioned. During the day, he sat under the neem tree or sometimes under the shade of the branch of the tree near a stream. In the afternoon, he used to walk at random and go at times to Nimgaon. There he frequented the houses of Bala Saheb Dhangele. Baba loved Bala Saheb. His younger brother Nana Saheb had no children, though he had married a second time. Bala Saheb sent Nana Saheb to receive Sai Baba's darshan, and after some time, with Baba's grace, Nana Saheb had a son. From that time onwards, people began to come in large numbers to see Sai Baba. His fame began to spread and reach Ahmednagar. It was from Ahmednagar that Nana Sahib Chandorkar, Keshav Chidambar, and many others began to come to Shirdi. Baba was surrounded by his devotees during the day and slept at night in an old and dilapidated mosque, the masjid. Baba's paraphernalia at this time consist of pipe, tobacco, a tin pot, a long flowing robe, a piece of cloth around his head, and a short stick which he always kept with him. The piece of white cloth on his head was twisted like matted hair and flowed down from his left ear into his back. This was not washed for weeks. He did not wear any shoes or sandals. A sack was his seat for the most of the day. He wore a cloth waistband and to ward off the cold. He always sat in front of a duni, that is a sacred fire, facing the south, with his left hand resting on the wooden railing. In that duni he offered as an oblation egoism, desires, and all his thoughts, and always said the words Allah Malik, God as the sole owner. The masjid in which he sat had two rooms. After 1912 there was a change. The old masjid was repaired and a pavement was constructed. Before Baba came to live in this masjid, he lived for a long time in a place called Takia, where with small bells tied to his legs, Baba danced beautifully and sang with tender love, turning water into oil. Sai Baba was very fond of lamps. He used to receive oil from shopkeepers and keep lamps burning the whole night in this masjid. This went on for some time. All the shopkeepers who supplied oil for free met and decided not to give him any more oil. When Baba went to ask for oil, they all refused. Baba returned to the masjid and put dry wicks in the lamps. The shopkeepers were watching him with curiosity. Baba took his tin pot, which contained a few drops of oil, poured some water into it, drank it, and spat it back into the container. After consecrating the tin pot in this way, he again filled water in this tin pot and filled all the lamps with it and lightened them. To the surprise and dismay of the watching shopkeepers, the lamps began to burn and kept burning the whole night. The shopkeepers repented and apologized. Baba forgave them and asked them to be more truthful in the future. The fake Guru Jawahar Ali. 5 years after the wrestling bout mentioned above, a fakir from Ahmednagar named Jawahar Ali came to Rahata with his disciples and stayed in the spacious room near the Veerabhadra temple. The fakir was learned, had memorized the entire Quran, and had a sweet tongue. Many religious and devout people in the village came to him and began to respect him. With the help of these people, he started to build an Eidgah, a wall before which Muslims pray on the Eidgah day near the Veerabhadra temple. There was some quarrel about this affair, on account of which Jawar Ali had to leave Rahata. Then he came to Shirdi and lived in the masjid with Baba. People were captured by the sweet talk and he began to call Baba his disciple. Baba did not object and consented to be his disciple. Then both Guru and his disciple decided to return to Rahata and live there. The Guru never knew his disciple's worth, but the disciple knew about the Guru's flaws. Yet Baba never disrespected Ali and carefully observed his duties as a disciple. He even served Master in various ways. They used to come to Shirdi at times, but they mainly lived in Rahata. Baba's loving devotees in Shirdi did not like the Baba, was living far away from them in Rahata. So they went there to bring Baba back to Shirdi. When they met Baba near the Eidgah and told him the purpose for which they came, Baba said that the fakir was an ill-tempered fellow and that he would not let Baba live. Thus, they better return to Shirdi without him before the fakir returned. While they were talking, Jawar Ali turned up and was very angry with them for trying to take his disciple away. There was some discussion, and it was finally decided that both the Guru and the disciple should return to Shirdi. And so they returned and lived in Shirdi, but after a few days, the Guru was tested by Devidas and he was found wanting. 12 years before Baba arrived in Shirdi with a marriage party, Devidas, aged about 10 or 11 at the time, came to Shirdi and lived in Maruti temple. Devidas had fine features, brilliant eyes, was this passion incarnate and a Gyani. Many people, Tatya Kote, Kashinath, and others regarded him as their guru. They brought Jawar Ali to him, and in the argument that followed, Jawar was defeated and fled from Shirdi. He went and lived in Bijapur and returned after many years to Shirdi and bowed before Sai Baba. The delusion that he was the Guru and Sai Baba, his disciple, was cleared, and he genuinely repented. Sai Baba treated him with respect. In this case, Sai Baba showed by actual conduct how one should get rid of egoism and perform the duties of the disciple to attain the highest and self realization. The story is told here according to Mahala Sapati, a great devotee of Baba's version. Om Sairam, end of chapter 5.